Hello everyone, my name is Sandy and I am a principal UX designer currently working at a Silicon Valley company. And today I'm going to share with you the story of how I became a UX designer. So let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what I was doing before I got into UX and how I got into UX. I am currently 29 years old and I'm going to turn 30 in 1 month. It's very exciting. So I do have a design degree and a design background. However, I wasn't doing industrial design. At 25 years old, I was working for a corporation where we basically did operational books for the clients of the company. And I really enjoyed this process a lot because we had to do a lot of research. We had to get maybe certifications in for the companies, and it was all kind of different books. We were doing, for example, security books for factories and what the employees of the company should use, all of these things. And we did all kinds of books for clients. We did also like randomly branding design. We had to design logos here and there. Very interesting stuff that we were doing, and I did learn a lot from different areas. And basically a year and a half after working in this company, my manager asked me to help him manage other designers in the team because I think he was prepping me to take his position once he left the company. So this is where it all started for me. So I really wanted to do a good job. So I decided to start doing research on how to manage designers. How can I be the best manager? How can I give feedback to these designers? How can I be the best I can be at the job? So I started doing a lot of research on how to manage designers, and actually everything that was appearing here, it was about UX. It was about managing designers in UX. And at the time, I had no idea what UX was. I mean, I knew about web design, for example, but I wasn't interested in web design because a lot of the time you needed to know how to code. And I hated coding. I knew a little bit about web design. I knew about what was happening in the industry, but I didn't really know about UX design. So everything about this subject was related to UX design. And honestly, I really loved the mindset of UX design. I really loved the philosophy, everything that I was reading, everything that I was learning. It was to be open to feedback. It was about improving. It was about iteration. It was about not taking anything personal and just receiving feedback in order to become a better designer. And I was so excited about this. I love that I was just attracted to the philosophy of UX design when it came to improving yourself as a designer and improving the product. So I got really into it from the perspective of managing designers, and I got really into it from the perspective of giving feedback, receiving feedback, having a good attitude, you know, just this philosophy of growing together as a team. So that's how I discovered UX. And when I discovered that, I just wanted to do it. I was ready for it. I was like, you know what? I wanna be a part of a team that has this philosophy. I wanna work with people who think like this. So I started reading more about it. I started doing research about it, you know, just Googling and researching on YouTube. How can I become a UX designer? What do I need to know in order to be a UX designer? What are the bases of a UX designer? What are companies asking from UX designers? You know, like, what do you study in college in order to become a UX designer? And I did a full-on research about it. So I did a lot of YouTube videos. I read a lot of books. I did a bunch of free courses online. I took courses on LinkedIn. I took courses in Skillshare, Coursera, just anything I could get for free, I took it. and I read it and I learned as much as I could. Something that I did a lot as well was that I will listen to a lot of podcasts. It was my favorite way to learn about UX design. And one of my favorite podcasts at the time, it was Product Breakfast Club. I think now it's called Jake and Jonathan. But I learned a lot from there as well. I listened to designbetter.com. Designbetter.com has a lot of books as well. I read those books. I listened to the podcasts. I did read a lot of articles online as well regarding to UX. I did a lot on Nielsen Group as well. Norman Nielsen has a lot of valuable stuff in his website as well. So basically, I absorbed as much as I could within a time period of 5 months. I just became obsessed. I became so obsessed with UX, and something that I got really into was the business perspective of UX, because the podcasts that I would listen to were from the business perspective and how UX designers don't usually take business into consideration. So that was very clear to me from the get-go. So I learned as much as I could, and then I started to practice mainly on Adobe XD. Currently I use Figma. I love Figma. That's what I recommend always. But at that time I started using Adobe XD. And then in my company, it was actually a big corporation, my company, and they launched this software. It was a software for, I don't remember what it was for, but it was really bad. I remember I looked at it, they trained us on it. If you have to train someone on a software, it's probably not a good UX. So I was looking at the software in my computer. UX experience of it is really bad. I don't blame the developers. They probably did the best they could, but they didn't have a designer. So the experience was very bad. So I look at the software and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna design a software. I'm gonna redesign this software and I'm gonna take it to HR and I'm gonna ask who is in charge of this software, and I want to give them my design, even if you don't hire me for that team, but use this design please, because your software is so bad. I was a little bit, I was extremely confident at that time. I was so confident on my designs, but it was actually, now that I think about it, now that I look back at it, it was my first design. So it was obviously not the best design. It was pretty bad, to be honest, but it was better than that software. So that's precisely what I did. I started designing the screens on Adobe XD and I did a prototype, and I think I did this for I think it took me like a month or something to do this. Following the design process that I had learned, I applied to the software, I designed it, and I did a prototype, and then I decided to go to HR. I don't know how I was so daring to do this, but I did, and I'm extremely grateful that I did, of course. So I took my laptop, I went to HR, I went to the director of HR, and I told her, hello, how are you? Everything's good, blah, blah, blah. We had a little chat, whatever. And I told her, you know what? I actually did something and I want to show it to you because I think this can improve the experience of the users when they're using the software. And then I show her my software. I show her my prototype of the software, and she was very surprised. She was pleasantly surprised. She was like, wow, I didn't know you could do this. This is great, blah, blah, blah. And you know, there is a saying that says, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So in this moment, I was prepared and an opportunity showed up, because actually the software was done by the IT department, and she told me, actually the director is here, will you like to show him your prototype and let's see what he says. And that was a moment of luck. So I was prepared, the opportunity presented itself, and I was like, hell yeah. I presented my prototype. It was a clickable prototype, so they were pleasantly surprised, I think. And the director actually said, you know what, actually we're gonna need to work on 2 softwares, and we're gonna need to work on websites for the clients of the corporations. Simple landing page that is sort of like a presentation page. So the director of the IT department was very happy about my sudden proposal because he actually needed someone like me, and they offered me a position at their team as a web designer. So that's how I started. That's how I got into UX. That's how I basically did the jump from not being a UX designer to being a UX designer, which was a web designer, but I was doing UX. I believe this has worked for a lot of people, and that's basically my advice to you guys. If right now you are learning about UX and eventually you want to transition into UX, my first advice will be try changing into the IT department of your company. A lot of companies have internal software that they develop, and it's a very simple software. But this can give you the opportunity to start practicing UX. This can give you the opportunity to create a portfolio that eventually you can show when you're trying to apply to a UX position in the tech world. If there's anything you can learn from my story, is that it actually works. I mean, you will have to be prepared for it, and you just have to go for it. You know, there's nothing to lose. Literally, if you think about it, you develop a new proposal for the IT department, then you go, you present it, there's nothing to lose. You can just go and do it, and maybe you'll get a position in UX or as a web designer, and that can be the very beginning of your career. And eventually you can be working at a Silicon Valley company, who knows, you know? So I will say dare to try. There is nothing to lose, and there is everything to win. Okay, and actually something very interesting happened at this time, because my team was growing, and it was something very interesting because my boss had already left, so they needed a manager for the rest of the designers. They were gonna hire like 18 designers. It was something crazy like that. The team was gonna grow a lot, so there was a need for a manager, and they were looking at me for that position. However, I had already gotten an offer to move to the IT department, and the IT department didn't offer me a raise. They were just like, you're gonna stay with your same salary, we're not gonna give you a raise, you know, maybe in the future we can talk about that, but the salary that we're offering you is the same one. You're gonna just switch teams. And in my team, for the operational books, they were actually offering me a very good raise, and my new boss really didn't want me to leave. He told me, I'm gonna give you a raise, I'm gonna let you design the software for our team, and I'm gonna buy you the course for design sprints, and you can stay with me. Of course, it was a beautiful proposal, but I was like, thank you very much. I don't want your raise. I don't want to manage any designers here. I'm overdoing this operational books. I don't want to do this anymore. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stay with the IT department, and I'm gonna stay in the same salary. So I rejected a raise. I rejected that opportunity because I knew that the value of what I was gonna learn in my position as web designer was way more valuable for me for the future I wanted than a raise. So in total, I prepared myself around 5 to 6 months, and then I work on the software, and the total amount of time of preparation for this was around 7 months. So I prepared myself for 7 months. I did a software, I got an offer, and then I became a UX designer. Now, in the IT department, I stayed there for 8 months, and basically I as promised, I designed 2 softwares and I designed around maybe 10 landing pages for the clients of the company. So at this point, I felt like I had enough material to build a portfolio and try to apply for an actual UX role. Thank you so much for watching this video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.